Christ is risen. Truly he is risen. Today, a continuation of our conversation last week with Professor Jean-Claude Larchet. If you missed the first two installments, we do recommend going back and listening to those first, but each episode does stand on its own 2 feet and can be listened to independently. Today, Dr. Larchet and Nicholas Chapman discuss the pitfalls of the new media and what the pandemic might have changed, or not, about the Church's approach to this technology that seemingly governs more and more of our life with each passing year.
More recently, you wrote a book which we translated and published in English about a particular sickness, if you like, which we in English called the new media epidemic.
Yes.
And in this book, amongst other things, you propose the possibility of ways that we can limit our exposure, if you like, to the new media. Just as we abstain from certain foods at times of the year. Can you explain this thinking a little bit?
Yes, there was a very great conference organized by the Monastery of Vatopedi in Crete, and 2 years before in Athens. They organized conferences on this topic because it's a real modern and actual topic, not only concerning the dangers and problems of new medias, but also concerning the possibility to use them for pastoral care and so on. And my presentation at one of these conferences was a proposition for all the churches to include abstention of new media during the time of fasting, because we fast of food, but we have the mind full of other things that are much more dangerous for our spiritual life than food itself. So if the church up to now has not decided on this situation, but I think it's very necessary to do something, because it's a very, very big problem, not only in the families, not only for children, but also for parents, for adults. In many families, the man and the woman don't speak together. Each is on his smartphone. They are living aside without communication, and it destroys the relationship between people in all the society, and at first in the family. And you cannot imagine how your book published in English was useful here in the United States. I participated some 2 days ago in a conference in Boston, and there were people coming from different parts from United States, and many came to me not to speak of my presentation on St. Maximus, but told me, how we are grateful for the book you wrote on this, on the new media. I have a family with 5 children, and it helped us a lot to have this book, and it's very, very important. And a teacher and a father and many other persons came to me to tell me that they were very happy to get this book to help them in their life, because it become really a hell. Many young people are more than 5, 6, or 7 hours per day on their smartphone, and they have communication of a very bad quality. They think that it is a good communication, but it is often something very artificial. The likes, for example, is something they think is love or friendship, but it is only to something pushed on a button and not more. And it is very, very dangerous. Not only I show in this book, not only for mind, for mental life, for reason, for attention, for memory, for all the functions of the mental life, but also for body, because many people now don't move. They are sitting with their computer or their smartphone a large part of the day. And it's very dangerous also for social relationship, and it destroys in a way the human the human being in all his functions, and that is important to make a limitation. But how make such a limitation? That's the problem. Some people want to forbid their children to use smartphone, but it is now impossible because some are obliged to use them in their scholar work, and when they are with other young, if they have no smartphone, they are excluded from the community and so on. There are such problems. But I think the best thing is for the parents to be aware of the dangers of this kind of communication, and to acquire a mastery of this mode of communication, and then to learn their children how to use them in what it is useful for their formation, scholar formation, or so on, to take real informations, and to avoid the dangerous connection with social networks, for example, and to learn them and to make them experience that the true relationships without this the middle of this things is something more enriching, more deep, more joyful, more
intimate,
fruitful that the use of such things. And what is interesting, I say that in my book, is that the inventors of these new medias, the dirigents of what we name the GAFA and the Google, Apple, Facebook, and now TikTok and so on, the inventors and the managers working in this in the teams of these great enterprises place their own children in private schools where there is no technology, because they are in a good place to be aware of the dangers of this technologies. And we have to acquire a real mastery of this technology. It is difficult not to use it, and in a way it may be useful. Personally, I use Google when I am looking for some scholar book or so on. But we have to learn how to use it, and we have to rediscover also the virtues of silence, of solitude, of also of true familial life, through relationships, through friendship, through fraternity between people, and then when the people go back to this ancient way of life, they are very, very happy, very satisfied, and but at first it's possible, but more and more difficult to disconnect various functions in the smartphone. And when you have a smartphone with a new update, more and more possibilities comes.
Yes.
And the first work to make is to disconnect most of the possibilities.
Yes.
I have personally have an iPhone, but at first I have only the connection with members of my family in case of emergency. I use only phone, never internet on this iPhone, and I am disconnected of all mean for for Google or for Apple to know where I am, what I am doing, and to have information about my health and so on. Because the aim of many companies who have connection with our smartphone is to collect more and more information and to make business with them. And there is no private life. There is no everything is known by the system of computer, and we become like a merchandise.
Although they are not always. I just returned from Spain, and to my surprise, when I watched briefly a football game yesterday, the advertisement was in Spanish, so they are a few days behind where I am living. So not perfect quite yet. But on a more serious question, many years ago I organized a conference about the Orthodox missionary tradition in Moscow, and I always remember one of the speakers said that the Roman Empire was pagan, but they built these fantastic roads so that it was possible to cross the empire. And the question then would be, like, with the internet, although the Roman armies were advancing the pagan empire, in the same way, this infrastructure of the internet, and even more so during the pandemic, allows forms of communication between people, of meetings with Zoom. Many churches are streaming live their services for people who can. So is this a good development, or is this a development that, as the pandemic we pray is receding, that the churches should stop these things?
I think it helped a lot during the pandemic, because in many churches there were no services. It was not allowed, for example, on Sunday to have the liturgy. In the laws were different in the different countries, but in many countries there were very strong restrictions, and people had no other possibility to follow the liturgy online, and it was very helpful. But the danger is to consider that it's the same thing to have the liturgy in your room as in the church. For a time it's very useful, but it has not to be definitive. And I deal of that question in my book, even in Protestant or Catholic emissions, they give communion before the screen and spoke after that of a spiritual communion. But it's not possible to have a real communion in that way, even spiritual. But what is true that I have written that in a book which is not published now in English, but has been published in France and in Romania also. I explain that in a way, when a liturgy is celebrated somewhere in the world, this liturgy is not only for the community, but for all the world, because it is the sacrifice of Christ, which is for all the universe. So it is possible when you attend a liturgical service on your computer to have some participation to the grace that is given to the whole universe by Christ in the place where the liturgy is celebrated. But it is not something that has become definitive, and when the pandemic is finished, we have also to go back to a normal way of participating. That is the same thing for communion, because many churches has used the alternative way to give communion with various spoons and so on. And especially in the Russian church, they have given a special protocol for this. But the danger will be that it become something permanent. There are situations in history where it is not possible to have a normal Christian life. Church has always organized itself to face this special situation, giving economy, and after that we come back to traditional, normal life.
Do you think there are positive ways that we should use the possibility of new media for the future?
No, I think church has to be present in new media. It is a pastoral way of for diffusion of the Orthodox faith, of the Christian faith. But there is a very big concurrence, and the problem is that there is no hierarchy. Each individual is able to have his own website and to say what he wants. There is no more hierarchy. A simple man has the same voice and the same level of thinking that a bishop or a patriarch or a synod or so on. And that is also the problem of the abolishing of the hierarchy of in the teaching of the church. But each church, having its own website, can do something for some people, but it doesn't replace the true relationship with persons, because it's something artificial. It's something. It's not natural. You can give an information, you can give some, but we have the experience that some people discover orthodoxy through emissions in television or in internet. For example, I know a priest in Spain. He was a Catholic, and he could not go to the church on time, and he opened his television, and he saw the liturgy with the Holy Fire in Jerusalem, and he was so impressed that he became Orthodox. And for example, in my own life, when I was young, television helped me a lot when I was alone and far from all Orthodox church in my small village. Through television, I had the possibility with the mensual Orthodox emission to see theologians speaking as Alexander Schmemann, Meyendorf, and other ones, and I had the possibility to learn from that and to have a better knowledge of what Orthodoxy was. So it is not to be neglected. One has not to have an absolute position with. We have to exclude some misuse and abuse of this media, not to forbid the use of them.
That was part 3 of our conversation with noted French Orthodox patrologist and author Professor Jean-Claude Larchet. Tomorrow, we turn to Dr. Larchet's latest book in English translation to be published next Tuesday, May 17th, on what the Orthodox Church has to say about the global ecological crisis. Thank you for listening. Христос воскресе! Воистину воскресе!